Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. This is Joel Perez here. Of course, these are your preview and predictions for the greatest Royal Rumble 2018 pay-per-view that we are going to be watching on Friday. And of course, this show is coming to us from the King Abdullah Stadium in Saudi Arabia. So very, very interesting stuff right there. In its own regard, we're going to be in a completely different country, and let me tell you, it's caused a bit of controversy. And don't everything run like a well-oiled machine when there's a lot of controversy. Either way, we're going to be talking about everything regarding this show like we usually do with the preview and predictions. We're going to be talking about all the matches on this show, the minimal build that has been to these matches on the show. Clearly, this is one of those shows that WWE, it's not a main pay-per-view, and the matches on this show don't necessarily have anything to do with what you're seeing on WWE television per se, but they still will have an impact on WWE because there's 7 title matches on this show, of course, besides the women, and we're going to talk about that right here on the preview and predictions, the controversy regarding the women. But there's going to be 7 title matches on this show, WWE title and Universal title matches. I'm predicting a couple title changes at this show as well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. Don't get me wrong, and it's going to be a fascinating pay-per-view. And one of the main reasons I find this pay-per-view fascinating is because I'm not necessarily going into it with any expectations. A lot of people are going into this pay-per-view expecting something or expecting less than nothing, as in they're expecting this pay-per-view to be garbage. I'm not necessarily forming an opinion on what this show is going to be because that's not what this show is about. It's about WWE striking a big deal with Saudi Arabia, and in order to promote that deal and show Saudi Arabia that they're in it for the long haul, WWE's, quite frankly, if you ask me, bending over backwards. And this is something that I wanted to address when I was thinking of making this preview and predictions video. This is one of the main things that I wanted to address, and it has to do with WWE pretty much sabotaging any other shows that they have in this April season, aka the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania, and really putting that to the sideline in order to instead put this greatest Royal Rumble show, which should not be as important as WrestleMania. It shouldn't even come close to being as important to WrestleMania. They're putting it to that esteem, and it really comes across as ridiculous to me. It really does, because you can tell some things were held back at WrestleMania in order to get it through on this show. For example, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar being the prime one right there. They held that back. Roman Reigns did not get the Universal Championship. 1, because they knew the fans were going to backfire, but 2, so they can do the change in Saudi Arabia, whether it has to do with the money or not. They want to do it in Saudi Arabia so you can get a better reaction than what you're going to get. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that there are a lot of things to talk about, because that's another thing I want to talk about. What is the crowd reaction going to be like at a show like this, like at Saudi Arabia? Because from the reports I'm hearing, WWE is doing all this sorts of crap. I'm actually going to put up an article so I don't sound like a complete idiot here just trying to pick these facts up off my brain. But from what I'm hearing, they're letting and leaving the seating of the show completely up to Saudi Arabia and their government, and they're going to be determining the seating of the show, which I find isn't going to come across well on television, and that's the expectation here. So I don't know about that. We all know that the crowd is a determining factor to a show's well, I can say enjoyment, the way the show comes across. When a show, even if the in-ring action is not as stellar, when the show has a great crowd that is really pumped for what they're seeing, it just comes across better. You, even if you're sitting at home, are more amped than you would usually be, where if a show had some great matches, but the crowd was dead, things aren't going to go across that well. And I can bring up an example of that as well. 205 Live, even 205 Live before Triple H took over, one of the main benefactors to that show being a failure for so long was the fact that it was after Smackdown Live and you have a dead crowd in that atmosphere, so it doesn't matter what the cruiserweights are doing in the middle of that ring on that show, it's always going to come across as worse than it really is because nobody cares. Because nobody cares. And that's one of the main things holding back a show like 205 Live. And I'm just hoping that that's not something that happens during this show. We're going to go further into talking about that during this Greatest Royal Rumble preview and predictions as well. So there's a lot to talk about here, as well as all these matches. There's also the factor of unpredictability that has been added due to the superstar shakeup. We're going to talk about all that, or did I say unpredictability? I'm not even sure. The factor of predictability that has been added, but we're going to talk about all of that, of course, right here on your Greatest Royal Rumble preview and predictions. So before, of course, we do go into that, I just want to tell you guys to make sure to go check out all of the content right here on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Of course, the reason I say that is because there is so much other content to go check out. Just this week on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel, you had your Monday Night Raw and Smackdown reviews. Monday Night Raw reviews doing very well. Smackdown Live review, I just want to tell you guys, make sure to go check that out. It was uploaded. Many of you may have missed that because I had to re-upload it. I fell asleep completely. I don't know what hit me last night. I was completely knocked out right after I finished that Smackdown Live review, and I didn't put the thumbnail in. I didn't put tags. I didn't do descriptions. So that video was completely doomed. So what I did is that this morning, took it, re-uploaded it, and from there we went on. So for those of you that may have missed it, make sure to go check out the Smackdown Live review because it is up on the channel right now on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Of course, we're talking about everything that happened there. I was not a fan of that show. A lot of people found it decent to passable. I did not like Smackdown Live last night. You want to go check out the reason why I didn't like Smackdown Live last night? Make sure to go check it out. And, of course, make sure to leave your opinion down in the comment section below. I just like to ask you guys to be logical when you are down in the comment section below, because during that Monday Night Raw review, I did get an illogical comment down in the comment section below. People asking me, or one person in particular asking me, why I watch it if I don't like it. Ho ho ho, the age-old question, right? The age-old question for people who are not using their brains. Make sure to go check that out, the Monday Night Raw review, if you missed it. A lot of people didn't miss it. Make sure to go check it out. We're talking about Roman Reigns and all the stuff going on there. We'd love to mention Roman Reigns. Not really. It's the age-old topic right there, Roman Reigns. You got the age-old question and the age-old topic. You got it all right here on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. But, of course, we're talking about Roman Reigns and how WWE went to the far extremes of planting fans in the crowd to chant Roman, Roman. And they raised the volume on them and everything. Absolutely ridiculous attempt. That's the main topic right there on your Monday Night Raw review. So, of course, make sure to go check it out. Of course, I want to tell you guys to smash that subscribe button with everything you got. Hit it with whatever you got. You got an F5, hit it with an F5. You got a spear, you like Roman Reigns, whatever, hit it with the spear. Kinshasa, Styles Clash, RKO. I don't know, Twist of Fate, whatever the hell, whatever finishing move you got, make sure to hit that subscribe button with it. And, of course, make sure to like, make sure to comment, and, of course, make sure to enlighten me down in the comment section below if you think I missed anything, or, of course, if you have an opinion that is different than mine and you would like to respectfully disagree, or if you would like to agree. Or if you would like to agree to disagree. I don't know. Make sure to leave a comment in the enlightenment box down below. That's what we're going to start calling it. Should we? I have no idea, but make sure to do that, because for now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go straight into your greatest Royal Rumble preview and predictions. And what I want to start off talking about here is, of course, the controversy going on with the women not being on this greatest Royal Rumble show. I mentioned this a while back, like 2 or 3 weeks ago on my Monday Night Raw review. It was a passing comment, but I did quite raise my voice when I was saying it and everything, and it was a little bit of a rant. I'm kind of starting to warm up to it, and my opinion is mixed, because yes, it is hypocritical for WWE not to have brought their women to this greatest Royal Rumble show. It clearly shows their agenda is not primarily on the women's revolution. Yeah, when they want to do this, and when they want to do that, and when it's easy for them, and when it's convenient for them, of course, they will put the women in prominent positions, and they'll get behind this women's revolution and this women's evolution, and they'll throw all the words in our faces. The first ever women's Royal Rumble, the first ever women's Hell in a Cell, the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. But when it comes to things like these, it is hypocritical that at the first drop of a dime, WWE is going to take the millions and millions of dollars, which I'm hearing is definitely a big whopping load of cash that the Saudi Arabian government, in hopes of, modernizing and westernizing. I have no idea, that they are looking to bring WWE into their market. Of course, WWE, it's a business move. They were all smiles. They were ready to take the money. But a caveat to taking that money was, of course, that they weren't going to be able to bring the women. And that's hypocritical. That is hypocritical. Because if WWE really wanted to show that they are down and dirty for this women's revolution, or whatever the hell they're calling it, then what they should have done was said no. But realistically, if you're a businessman and they're shining millions and millions of dollars in your face, why would you say no to that deal? Why would you say no to that deal? And I understand WWE in that regard, but you should have expected it to cause controversy. And over this past week, that controversy has arisen. What I'd like to say is that the SJWs have picked up on it, but that's just a little joke right there. I don't know. But my thing is that why wouldn't WWE have taken this deal? Because down the line, what they can do to make this right is that down the line, WWE is going to go slashing away and slashing away and slashing away, and year by year, they're going to try to convince Saudi Arabia, and they're going to pitch the idea that, all right, can we have the women on the show this year? Maybe next year they'll say no. Can we have women on the show this year, 2020? Maybe they'll say no. Maybe it comes 2021. All right, maybe we're thinking about it. But then overall it's no. Maybe by 2022 they ask again. You know what? Fine, let's have a women's match. Let's make history. And then when that does come, it's going to be pretty historic. And of course, WWE is going to be the first people in your face to say, well, look at what we did. We are the only wrestling company in the world. We are the only sports company in the world who has women competing in Saudi Arabia. We broke down that barrier. That's what they're going to be saying. And quite frankly, that is a positive thing that they can do. That is a positive thing that they can do out of this, because realistically, it's a completely different culture. It is. They are much more strict. They are much more arbitrarian, I guess you can say is the word there, when it comes to how they treat their women. Their stances are changing on it based on the overly political answer that Triple H said, because he did respond to it. I believe it was like yesterday or the day before. I'm not so sure about that, but Triple H, he did respond to it, and they said they are changing their stances on women. So if that is to be believed, that they're slowly going ahead and modernizing their views on that, then we can expect to see that. You can't just walk into another territory, into somebody else's quote-unquote home, and start to do whatever you want. You can't say, no, we don't like that, we're going to do what we want. You're not in America. You play by a different set of rules. You're in a different ballpark, and that needs to be understood to an extent. It's hypocritical, yes, but when is anything worth a load of money not going to come across as hypocritical. So I think that it does show WWE's true intentions when it comes to this women's revolution, and it does show that WWE is willing to throw their women's superstars, and actually not just that, apparently they're not going to allow Jewish people either to go to Saudi Arabia. So that's Paul Heyman, that's somebody else, I forgot the two other names, but that's Paul Heyman, who's not going to be able to be alongside Brock Lesnar at the Greatest Royal Rumble because he's Jewish. So that's another thing right there. On top of that. So it just goes to show you that they're willing to throw that under the bus. And there's not going to be any case where that's not going to be found as hypocritical. But as far as being a hypocrite over money, I think even I myself, if I was being shined a whole load of cash, I'd rather betray my morals because, quite frankly, it is a different set of ballpark. And if you stick to it, in the future, maybe you can make a difference. And like Triple H said, if you stay away from it, you have no opportunity to make a difference. Now that we're going there, we have our foot in the door. We're going to play by the rules, and maybe we'll try to shake the hands and shake some heads, turn some heads as well, and have them thinking a little bit differently. So that's my stance on that. It's somewhere in the middle. But we move on here to talking about the crowd and how the crowd is going to be perceived for this show, because that's yet another thing that we're looking at in this show, which is going to be outside of the United States, and the crowd is going to be completely controlled. Where everybody sits is going to be completely controlled by the Saudi government. So we're going to talk about that right here, right now. So, my opinion on this is that this kind of displays more hypocrisy on WWE's part, because the Saudi Arabian government is completely showing terms of oppression when it comes to seating this crowd. WWE is giving the Saudi Arabian government, it's like WWE is just taking the money and they're going in there, putting on the show, and that's all. That's all. They're not messing with anything else. And that might be the smartest possibility, because this is a country that you speak out on what you believe in and you can get killed. So, but that's a different culture. That's a completely different culture. It's not a great culture by any means. It's ridiculous by American standards and by whatever standards you may have. But, I mean, that's what they're going into. And it displays hypocrisy when it comes to the culture that WWE tries to push on their programming. But WWE, let me read this article for you guys. WWE's inaugural Greatest Royal Rumble event takes place Friday, and it will serve as the kickoff for a problematic 10-year alliance between WWE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Although the card, which will be held inside King Abdullah Sports City Stadium in the city of Jeddah, is being constructed with similar star power and length to WrestleMania, one glaring difference with WrestleMania 34 is that women will not be allowed to perform at the Greatest Royal Rumble. This stands as direct opposition to WWE's ongoing initiative to promote equality between its male and female superstars, with the women formerly known as Divas having been rebranded in 2016. In an interview with The Independent, Paul Triple H Levesque, WWE's Vice President of Talent, Live Events, and Creative, commented on the socio-political issues plaguing the Greatest Royal Rumble. I understand that people are questioning it, but you have to understand that every culture is different, and just because you don't agree with a certain aspect of it, doesn't mean it's not a relevant culture. You can't dictate to a country or religion about how they handle things. But having said that, WWE is at the forefront of a women's revolution, or evolution, he said, in the world, and what you can't do is affect change anywhere by staying away from it. While parts of Triple H's answer made him sound like a corporate wind-up doll, the women's evolution in WWE is a very real thing. The signing of former UFC megastar Ronda Rousey will further spearhead women's wrestling in WWE. WrestleMania 34 marked the first time in WWE history that the event featured multiple women's singles matches for world championships. With Rousey on board, there's reportedly talk of what would be an unprecedented all-women's main event at WrestleMania 35. Even pre-Rousey, women had broken into the main events of Raw, pay-per-views, and specialty matches such as Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, and Hell in a Cell, once reserved for their male counterparts. WWE's initiatives aside, that the promotion accepted money from Saudi Arabia as part of the country's Vision 2030 demonstrates WWE will accept oppressive practices in exchange for the financial gain. And this is what I'm talking about here with the seeding. It's not yet known how much the Saudi Arabian government has paid the WWE for the Greatest Royal Rumble, but the nation has reportedly made a $400 million investment in UFC's parent company, and the event will feature the extravagant pageantry of a WrestleMania-like stage and set design, which is actually one of the things I forgot to mention earlier, which I'm most looking forward to see. What is the set going to look like for this damn event? But a high-profile card that will feature the likes of Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, John Cena, Rey Mysterio, and Brock Lesnar, who doesn't travel for that matter, do anything on the cheap side, and added travel in the face of an already hectic international schedule. Couple all of that with the likelihood that WWE will take a PR hit for airing men's only event co-sponsored by a draconian kingdom, and the asking price for the Greatest Royal Rumble was undoubtedly high, but Saudi Arabia has more than enough assets to write such a check. Saudi Arabia's GDP is $646 billion, that's a big number, and the country's Vision 2030 initiative to ramp up investment in its entertainment sector is a part of a bigger plan to decrease its reliance on oil. From an optimistic standpoint, Vision 2030 is just one of several progressive changes led by 32-year-old Prince tailor-made for the modern era. Prince Mohammed bin Salman's kingdom recently appointed Princess Rima bint Bandar as the first female president of the Saudi Federation for Community Sports starting in June 2018. Saudi Arabia will enact historic legislation that will allow women to drive. A more cynical point of view of these otherwise encouraging steps towards equality might be that it's all part of a superficial public relations campaign in Saudi Arabia, which has been criticized for a guardianship system and which was ranked at a pitiful 141st out of 144 in the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap report in 2016. Although most tickets for the Greatest Royal Rumble are being offered at a sellout friendly price of $2.70 to $5.30, only 10,000 of approximately 52,000 tickets were made available to single males, which is crazy. Given the abundance of single males who watch pro wrestling, it goes without saying that those tickets quickly sold out. Even those tickets, however, will banish single male spectators to faraway sections within the stadium, while VIP seating available for $80 and sections showcasing on-camera viewers are reserved for members of the Saudi General Sports Authority, celebrity guests, and families that must include at least one adult woman. So that's what I'm talking about with Saudi Arabia oppressing the seating and what they're doing with the seating, which WWE has nothing to do with. Male ticket holders and local wrestling fans have been extremely upset with these developments. In all fairness, that is how just about every pro wrestling news story begins these days, but this is a rare case where they have a legitimate gripe. WWE will surely brandish countless shots of women in the crowd enjoying the Greatest Royal Rumble on Friday. That's not progressive, it's propaganda. For all the intense backlash that influenced sponsors to encourage a name change of the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, which may or may not have unfairly villainized the polarizing former women's champion, backlash against WWE for its lucrative partnership with an oppressive kingdom has relatively been muted. People like you and me will watch this event and the WWE Network on the WWE Network. As a resident of the West Coast, I'll even wake up early to cover the Greatest Royal Rumble wire to wire. And as a part of the East Coast, I'm going to skip class in order to give you guys a review for this. But WWE will be airing a major pay-per-view prohibiting female performers in the face of a company-wide women's movement, and wrestling fans and media members worldwide will share in the hypocrisy. So that's pretty crazy what WWE is doing there, and a lot of what that article said from Forbes was true. It was true. But where I'm mainly looking at is that seating part. I didn't know the article was going to be so long. I'll be honest, I didn't read it before, but that covers a lot of what's going on with the women's as well, and a lot of what I said with the women's there. They looked at it at a more cynical point of view where they're criticizing that moment. I understand where WWE is coming from with that, and how they're pushing all the bad media that this is going to get aside. But realistically, they are being hypocrites on that regard. And on top of that, it's pretty crazy what they're doing with the seating as well. It's going to make for a show to be worse as far as the crowd comes across, because the people who are actually going to buy the tickets, the diehards in Saudi Arabia, who are actually going to buy the tickets in order to be vocal because they actually know what's going on, they're going to be repressed to sitting in the back. They're going to be in the nosebleeds of the goddamn arena, and they're not going to be heard. Meanwhile, they're going to put all these royal family members and all these suits and names in Saudi Arabia, whoever the hell they may be, and they're going to put them in the front. And that's going to be the case right there, where they're in the front, and those are going to be people who realistically know nothing about wrestling. And unless WWE puts on a show which is more casual, and that you just show this to a wrestling fan or somebody who's not a wrestling fan, and it's going to click, that's exciting. Unless WWE puts on a picture-perfect show that's like that, I don't see this show, as far as what we see on camera and what we hear from the crowd, I don't think this show is going to be the liveliest whatsoever, and I think that's negatively going to impact this show. When you're having a matchup like AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, you want the crowd to be at its peak, and that's not going to be the case here. At least I don't think so. Hopefully I'm wrong. But from what it sounds, Saudi Arabia is just going to take all these fans, and apparently they're showing up there, and for those people, those 10,000 people who bought those tickets, they're just being told the sector which they're going to sit in, and they'll distribute where they're going to sit when they get there. That's all up to the Saudi Arabian government. So, WWE really, what are you doing here? In order to take that money, they're doing a lot. And they're ignoring a lot. That's what I'll say about that. But when it comes to me being a wrestling fan, that's not really what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the women not being on the show. When it comes to being a wrestling fan, what I'm looking at is, thank God we're being spared from seeing women like Carmella and Nia Jax defending the women's championship, because realistically, that is going to make the show worse. The two women's champions right now are nothing to gawk at. If Charlotte was still the women's champion on the Smackdown Live side, and maybe we were seeing a Charlotte versus Asuka on this show, and if, even Alexa Bliss, if Alexa Bliss was still women's champion on the Raw side, maybe my tune as a wrestling fan, and maybe not seeing those two women defending their championships on the show would be different, as far as a wrestling perspective goes. But that's not the case. I don't care about Nia Jax and Carmella not defending their women's championship. You have a pay-per-view either way right around the corner in Backlash, which they're going to be defending their titles at either way. So there's that as far as that goes. That's my opinion on that. Another interesting part of this as well with the crowd is that WWE, one of the reasons that's being heavily rumored that they prolonged, which this is absolutely pathetic either way, and that's how I view this, that they prolonged Roman Reigns winning the title at WrestleMania, and they prolonged the inevitable to the greatest Royal Rumble, and that the Universal Championship change is going to happen at this pay-per-view, but they prolonged it because they knew Roman was going to get booed at Mania, and Saudi Arabia, a crowd that is either diehard for Roman Reigns because they love Roman Reigns, like India and stuff, or a crowd that isn't going to know who he is, and they're going to be receptive. They're definitely not going to be negative like the WrestleMania crowd was, because most of them aren't going to know what they're watching, and they're either going to cheer Roman, or they're going to not do anything at all, or give some cheers, and it's definitely going to come across better than it would in New Orleans. So that was WWE's plan there, to have the reaction that they want given to Roman Reigns. And yes, it's petty, yes, it's pathetic, but that might not even be the case if we have a dead crowd all night, especially at the end of a 5-hour show, a non-wrestling crowd. Holy crap, I'm going to be very, very interested in seeing what the case is going to be with that. But I think that's all I have to talk about here as far as the controversy going into this show and the crowd. If I forgot anything, I'm sure I'll mention it, whether it's on the Greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view review itself, or a Raw or a Smackdown review, or if I do any content before that comes, I'm sure I'll mention it. But for now, let's just go straight into talking about the matches that are going on this show. Again, like I said, 7 championship matches, the Greatest Royal Rumble itself. You've got a Undertaker-Rusev casket match, and of course you have John Cena versus Triple H as a special attraction. A lot of these matches are overly predictable, like I said, due to the Superstar Shakeup. Superstar Shakeup, very, very illy timed on WWE television. I would have done it after the Backlash pay-per-view. WWE refrained from doing that, making this show more predictable. You pretty much know that the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championships are going to be won by people who are on the brands that the titles are currently on. But here it is. Let's talk about the show. There's going to be a Cruiserweight Championship matchup on this show between Cedric Alexander and Kalisto. This was determined on 205 Live. I really need to start watching 205 Live, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. This is going to be Cedric Alexander's first title defense, I believe, after WrestleMania. So I don't understand why you would put the title on him just to have him lose it to Kalisto a couple weeks later. That doesn't make sense to me. I think this could be a very, very good matchup. I think if this matchup is given its time, which it probably will, this show is being advertised to be like 5 hours plus a 1 hour kickoff. WWE could do an overrun if they want to as well. So I already see this matchup going a good 20 to 25 minutes. And I think these two guys, out of all the matches that we see on the show, they could realistically steal it. The high-flying ability, Cedric Alexander does not need to be stated how amazing he is. And Kalisto's pretty good in the ring. So this could be a very, very good matchup. He won a gauntlet match that was held on 205 Live on Tuesday. So there's that. They're doing some interesting things on 205 Live from what I've seen. I saw a little video of Buddy Murphy not making the weigh-in. I love the creativity there. You're playing with that weight limit. I like that because if the weight limit's going to be there, put it to some good use. So Triple H, so creative, so fantastic. I got to start watching 205 Live because I know that as soon as I start watching it, I'm going to get the feeling that I'm watching NXT, and I absolutely love NXT. Wouldn't mind another hour of NXT if I'm being quite honest with you. But that is what I think is going to happen there. I'm thinking Cedric Alexander will retain his Cruiserweight Championship. Really don't see any reason why he would lose it. We go to the Raw Tag Team Championship. It is The Bar versus Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. I have no interest in this matchup whatsoever because we already know what the winner is going to be. Again, that's what I'm talking about with the predictability that has been caused by the Superstar Shakeup. We know who's going to win this matchup. I would be very, very shocked if The Bar walked out of this matchup. As a matter of fact, I can see that happening. They get drafted to SmackDown just to win the tag team titles back and give Raw that extra tag team. I mean, I have no interest in seeing The Bar win the titles back, but I don't know what they're going to do there because Raw definitely needs tag teams. It wouldn't hurt to get The Bar. Really wouldn't, but I'm predicting that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are going to get the win here. I mean, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, they don't come across as a tag team at all right now. Their theme music is completely down the drain. Even Rebby Hardy, a lot of people started tweeting her that the theme music sounded awful. And she was retweeting those tweets because, of course, Rebby Hardy, being the musical genius that she is one to want to do her own version of a theme song for Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. But that just goes to show you how awful that is. Either way, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, I'm predicting, to walk out of this tag team championship match. Should be a good match. Only thing that can bring this matchup down is that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt don't have any chemistry. But they've been working for each other, with each other, I should say, for the past how many months. So they should have it down by now. Going to be interesting to see what they do. Bar, great tag team. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do in this matchup. We go to the Smackdown Tag Team Championships. It's the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos. And as far as the build to this matchup goes, this is one of the few matchups that actually has a proper build because it wasn't interrupted by the Superstar Shakeup. And it isn't just one of those matches that WWE's throwing there to make this a big show because they can and to show Saudi Arabia that they're worthy of the money. But it's the Usos versus the Bludgeon Brothers, and I absolutely despise what they've done with the Usos. Usos, you know I've been very high on them. Everybody's been very high on them throughout all of 2017. No doubt about it. Best tag team in WWE. You can make a safe argument that they are the best tag team in the world. They've been putting on great match after great match. What they did with the New Day doesn't even need to be mentioned. You all know it is absolutely fantastic, and their promos have been absolutely top notch. But of course, WWE has to go ahead and try to ruin that. Hopefully they cut this crap out, because it sounds absolutely terrible. Is of course Naomi being involved with the Usos, humanizing those Usos characters. I absolutely despise it, and hopefully they cut it out, because that is not a good thing to be doing to the Usos. It ain't broke. Don't try to fix it. And I'm afraid this could even lead the Usos, because they were teetering for all these months on being baby faces or heels. They've been tweeners, and it's been fun like that, because the best baby faces are baby faces who take their heel characters that have been such successes. These are the best heel transitions. When the the heels take their heel character and just use that heel character, but make it a baby face. They make it a baby face. That's what makes the Usos such great baby faces and heels, because the babyface characters have the same intensity that the heel character has, except they're using it to do good. That's all you need to do. Randy Orton, when he becomes a heel, he's completely aggressive, and that's not something that he brings to his babyface character. I find Randy Orton to be an awful heel. But as far as what they're doing with the Usos now, it looks like they're trying to bring them back to the face paint Usos that we all despised 2 years ago. So hopefully that's not the case. I absolutely adored the work of the Usos in 2017, and hopefully WWE does not retract on that by injecting Naomi. Naomi, of course, won't be here. So, I mean, you could have told a much better story arc. You could have had the Usos doubting each other until they rallied and decided, you know what, we're not going to be pushed around like this. We're the goddamn Usos. This is the Uso penitentiary. We're going to take down the Bludgeon Brothers just for them to lose anyways, of course. But it would have been a better story regardless. Either way, the Bludgeon Brothers, I'm predicting to win here. I don't see the Usos walking out with the tag team titles here. They will be toppled. Either way, we move on to the United States Championship matchup, and this is a little bit interesting because depending on the order, the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship matchups are going to correlate to each other. For example, if this matchup goes first right here, the United States Championship matchup, Jinder Mahal, if he beats Jeff Hardy, which is something I would not be surprised if WWE did, if Jinder Mahal beats Jeff Hardy for the United States Championship, that means he's taking that United States Championship over to Monday Night Raw. So if he takes it over to Monday Night Raw, that immediately injects something into the Intercontinental Championship matchup, which is a fatal four-way ladder matchup for the Intercontinental Championship between Seth Rollins, The Miz, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe. And that means either The Miz or Samoa Joe, probably going to be The Miz, are taking the Intercontinental Championship to Smackdown, because that is the brand that they are on. So that's what I see happening there, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Jeff Hardy is going to keep the United States Championship in this case. The only reason I see Jeff Hardy losing the United States Championship is simply because of the fact that Jinder Mahal has been taking a couple L's. He took that L to Jeff Hardy. He took the L at WrestleMania, and he did take an L to Chad Gable this past week on Monday Night Raw, which, I mean, seeing Jinder Mahal lose, not necessarily something I mind, because I do think he is a failure, but he's been getting better. I'll give him that. But this should be a good matchup. They put a good matchup on Raw. That had a lot to do with the crowd being very receptive to Jeff Hardy and the crowd being very receptive to Jinder Mahal, both in the babyface and heel aspects. And again, that's another question during the show. Is the crowd going to be receptive to this? I have no idea. But Randy Orton is a looming factor in this as well. It's probably going to be Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton going forward on SmackDown Live, and I don't see them getting in the middle of a feud like that just to give the title to Jinder Mahal. But then again, they can compensate him. But then again, I don't want to see it happen. So I'm going with Jeff Hardy here. That's what's in my gut, and I think my gut is right in this scenario. We go to the Intercontinental Championship matchup. If the Intercontinental Championship, or should I say the United States Championship matchup, if it's going to be won by a SmackDown superstar, that means the Intercontinental Championship is going to be retained by a Raw superstar. And the reason I say retained is because I would keep the title on Seth Rollins. I think the Intercontinental Championship is in the right hands if you keep it on Seth Rollins. I mean, I've been begging and pleading for months that the Intercontinental Championship be put on a babyface. They did that, so do not go back on that. That's the reason I don't want to see that scenario where Jinder Mahal wins the Raw or the United States Championship and takes it to Raw, and Miz wins the IC title and takes it to SmackDown, because I'm fed up of seeing the Miz hold the IC title. He's been holding it on and off for like 2 years now. And it comes across as absolutely ridiculous that this is still the case. So hopefully they refrain, they hold back from doing that, and they keep the title on Seth Rollins. If they want to flip it onto Finn Balor, I really wouldn't mind that either way. But Seth Rollins is the guy I would keep that Intercontinental Championship on, because quite frankly, it's the best on his hands. Look at all the feuds you can have if you go and keep the title on Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Seth Rollins and Elias. Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley, if you want to go down that road. Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman. Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt. Seth Rollins and this guy, that guy, the next guy. And it all works because Seth Rollins is great in the ring. You can do Seth Rollins and Jinder Mahal, which has been suggested as well. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Seth Rollins, and I would keep the title on him. It would make no sense, especially if Jinder Mahal wins the United States Championship, to keep the title on Rollins. But I would put it on Rollins regardless, and that's what I would do. So Rollins keeps the Intercontinental Championship. This could be the best matchup of the show if you're looking at it. It's going to be a ladder match, and that just goes to show you how big WWE is trying to make this show. They have a casket match with Rusev and The Undertaker. They have a Royal Rumble, which is something actually, why wouldn't the controversy be on that? That's something I'm surprised there's no controversy on. WWE is using the Royal Rumble name right there. They're using the Royal Rumble name. They're using the Royal Rumble rules. I mean, I'm surprised a bunch of diehards didn't come out and say, well, WWE, we've already seen 2 Royal Rumbles this year. A men's Royal Rumble and a women's Royal Rumble at the pay-per-view itself. Now you're going to use another Royal Rumble. Way to devalue the Royal Rumble. I'm surprised that's not an argument. But people don't seem to mind this. Anyways, this was a ladder match here tonight. Or it's going to be a ladder match on Friday night. And I'm predicting Seth Rollins, this could seal the show. Like I said, ladder matches, championship matches, casket matches, Royal Rumbles, steel cage match, which is actually going to be the main event with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So there's a lot of stuff going on this show. But out of all the matches, the ones that can look like they could steal the show, I mean, it's either going to be Styles and Nakamura, who under-delivered at WrestleMania, which I'm kind of pissed off about, or it's going to be this ladder match, and this could be very good. I mean, I'm very high on the ladder match right now, because the last ladder match that I seen was at NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and that ladder match got 5 stars. It was, of course, the 6-way ladder match between, let's see if I can recall the names, Ricochet, Adam Cole, EC3, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, and the Velveteen Dream. Sharp like a tack. Either way, that was, of course, for the North American Championship. 5-star rated ladder match right there. That was fantastic. There's no doubt about that. And hopefully this does the same. We move on here. John Cena versus Triple H. I'm not going to talk about this much at all. We've seen John Cena versus Triple H a million times. This matchup is simply an attraction. 2 of the biggest names in the history of this company wrestling each other. Clearly they're trying to just make this an attraction for the fans at Saudi Arabia. So there's that. So this matchup was one of the first announced on the show. One would expect Triple H to go over considering Cena's booking. But I mean, the fact that it's in front of Saudi Arabian fans, I can see Cena winning as a babyface. So that's what I will see. I'm not sure. But if they want to continue this John Cena storyline with him taking these L's, I'd have him lose to Triple H. This could be a very good matchup. I have no doubt John Cena and Triple H, they definitely still got it in their ages of 48 and 40, if I'm correct there. I should get a medal. But that is besides the point. We move on to The Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match. This is just another one of those attraction matches as well. This matchup had a little bit of controversy behind it, believe it or not, as well. Everything on the show is just controversial. Either way, Rusev apparently, he of course tweeted out on Twitter after this matchup was announced, "Bury me softly, brother." And he went on TMZ. He was saying some stuff in character, clearly. And WWE, they were afraid that Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, would have been offended. So they changed it immediately to Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker. And we were all like, whoa, what's the meaning behind that? Is Rusev gone? Is Rusev released? What the hell happened there? And everybody just went into this crazy tangent. Well, what if Rusev's released? Oh my God. But of course, the article came out, or the news story came out, WWE made this matchup once again, Rusev versus The Undertaker, because apparently The Undertaker, he saw what Rusev did and he was absolutely fine with it. He didn't give a care in the world. What I'm interested about in this matchup is what's going to be the case with The Undertaker here. Is The Undertaker going to be able to go? Apparently the reason that the John Cena Undertaker matchup at WrestleMania was so short is that Undertaker can't really go. So what are they going to do here? What are they going to do? Is Undertaker just going to bury Rusev in 3 minutes? Is that going to be the case here? That sounds absolutely ridiculous if you ask me. I have no interest in seeing that. Hopefully this can be a good matchup. Undertaker, I'm not convinced that he can even move properly at this point in the game. I'm not sure about that, but hopefully this could be a good match. Hopefully this could remind us of the Undertaker of old. Rusev could get in his offense. He can look good in the ring with the Undertaker, which is something that should rise his star power, because being in the ring with the Undertaker, it's an honor. I want to be in the ring with the Undertaker. I think everybody who's ever wanted to be a wrestler and who's ever been a wrestling fan, one of the biggest honors, besides being, of course, on WrestleMania, besides main eventing WrestleMania, is being in the ring with the Undertaker. That's a huge honor. But Rusev is getting that honor, and hopefully they can get a good matchup out of it. It's clear that The Undertaker is going to win here. I have no doubt in my mind that that is going to be the case. But hopefully, what I'm hoping for, what I'm crossing my fingers for, is that they do not book a squash, because that is not what I want to see, especially happening to Rusev. But that is besides the point. We move on here to the WWE Championship matchup on the show. It is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And if there has been something that has been absolutely fantastic on Smackdown Live television over the past couple weeks coming out of WrestleMania, it is the heel turn of Shinsuke Nakamura. They even went to the extent of changing his theme music. Mixed reactions that's getting. Some people are saying they love the new theme music. I'm simply viewing it as WWE trying to make Nakamura more of a heel, because if they can sing along, or if they want to sing along to the theme music, then there's a problem. He's not as much of a heel. Even though you can realistically make a big heel and have him have great theme music. Bobby Roode in NXT had fantastic theme music, one of the biggest babyface theme songs ever, but of course he was still a fantastic heel, and he would still get a lot of heel heat and all that good stuff. But that is besides the point, because WWE did went ahead and change the theme music of Shinsuke Nakamura. And my stance on it is that, okay, whatever. They're trying to make him a heel. He has theme music. This is one of the steps that they're going to take in order to get there. So I'm fine with it. When he does return and become a babyface once again, however long down the line that is, I'm just hoping that they change it back. But that is besides the point, because it is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at this very show. And what I'm hoping for in this scenario is that they put on a stellar competition here at WrestleMania. Clearly, my thoughts on that was that they underdelivered. They realistically underdelivered at WrestleMania, and I was very ashamed, because that was one of the things that I was looking forward to most. Hopefully that is not the case on this show, and I don't think that they're going to strike out 2 times. That's just not in the nature of AJ Styles. Definitely not in the nature of Shinsuke Nakamura either. I hope that's not the case. I think they can put on a very, very good match. We know they can put on an amazing matchup, and hopefully, especially with the added story, they can do that this time around, because what was missing definitely going into that WrestleMania matchup was that there was no interesting story going into that matchup. Now, I'm definitely invested in this story. I'm definitely invested in the heel turn, in the legitimacy that AJ Styles brings to the WWE Championship as far as carrying. He brings prestige to that title, and he showed aggression on SmackDown Live just this past Tuesday when he tackled down Nakamura. I love every single part about it, and hopefully I love every single part of this match at the greatest Royal Rumble. The only part, again, that I'm worried about here, because all the pieces are in place, is the fact of the crowd. That's going to be the biggest testament to this show, one of the biggest parts of this entire event. Anyways, we move on to Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. This is going to be a steel cage match. I'm tired of it. I'm absolutely tired of it. At this point, just put the championship on Reigns. I think that's what's going to happen here. Of course, that's WWE's plan, to put the title on Reigns here so he can get the reaction that they want, as petty as it is. We discussed it earlier. But either way, I mean, just put the title on Reigns at this point. If there's one benefit to Reigns having the title, if there's one big benefit, it's that it's going to be back on Monday Night Raw, and that's something that Monday Night Raw, I can safely tell you, desperately needs, so we can just get over this and just start over again, have Roman Reigns do his run, and let's just get past this. That's what I'm waiting for, to get past this, because Brock Lesnar is Universal Champion. Him showing up every 3 weeks on Raw to just stand there and hop around, I'm just absolutely tired of it. And WWE's propaganda has been the greatest with Roman Reigns during this feud more than ever, and I'm just absolutely sick and tired of it. So I'm thinking Roman Reigns is going to win the Universal Championship here. I'm sure of it. You just don't bet against Roman Reigns. You're betting against Roman Reigns, and you're an absolute fool. But, I mean, that's my bet here. Roman Reigns is going to win the championship, and I don't think he's going to pin Brock Lesnar. There's no doubt about that. To keep Brock Lesnar looking strong, because I do think his deal is going to go past this very pay-per-view. What I'm thinking WWE is going to do is that it's a steel cage match, so Roman Reigns is going to climb out of the steel cage, or he's going to walk out of the front door. And that's going to be that. So there's not going to be any Paul Heyman here, so there's not going to be no interference, none of that, no heel turn with Paul Heyman aligning with Roman Reigns, none of that. But what there will be is a new Universal Championship, and it is the big dog, Roman Reigns. But at this point, I honestly don't care. We move on here to the Greatest Royal Rumble, and this matchup is just going to be a spectacle, pretty much. I mean, there's a bunch of legends announced. Everybody's coming out of the woodworks. They've announced Daniel Bryan, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, Shane McMahon, who's not even an active performer, Kurt Angle, the Great Khali of all people, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, Bobby Lashley, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Kane, The New Day, Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, Shelton Benjamin, Sin Cara, Elias, Chad Gable, Goldust, Titus O'Neil, Mojo Rawley, and Dolph Ziggler. Whew, that's a freaking handful, or a mouthful, I should say. But realistically, I think that the winner of this contest is either going to be Daniel Bryan, because WWE is going to troll us. They're going to say, you want him to win an actual Royal Rumble. Well, we'll give him this. That's the closest he's going to get. Or, what safer bet than to go with the biggest babyface in this company, Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman. I don't know, or not the biggest babyface in this company, the biggest babyface on Monday Night Raw, and Braun Strowman. He's one of the most over people in the entire roster right now. So why not do that? Why not do that? Either way, Greatest Royal Rumble, it's just going to be a 50-man Royal Rumble, biggest Royal Rumble of all time. Probably it's going to be operating by normal Royal Rumble rules, whether that means 90-second intervals or 60-second intervals or 2-minute intervals, which I doubt they're going to do. I mean, it's going to be exciting. It's a Royal Rumble. I love watching Royal Rumble matches. Probably one of the best match types in WWE and all. But it's just going to be interesting to see who comes out the winner of the Greatest Royal Rumble. Doesn't mean anything either way, but it's just going to be something a little bit fun to watch on this show. But that's all I'll say about that. For now, that is my preview and predictions for the Greatest Royal Rumble. I hope you enjoyed each and every single thing that you heard on this little preview and predictions video. Of course, if you enjoy what you heard here, make sure to like and, of course, subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Throw that subscribe button straight out of the Greatest Royal Rumble. That's how hard you're going to click it. So for now, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be all right here on Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. That's going to be all from me right now, Joel Perez, because for now, I am out of here. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I'll see you next time right here on Ringside Wrestling.